there's a bunch of people that are upset about what Trump said about Baltimore. Baltimore is probably one of the most beautiful cities that I have seen. With that being said, Baltimore is beautiful by the water. It's beautiful where they have that mall where the Cheesecake Factory is. Baltimore is beautiful in those rich areas, and then just on the outskirts of Baltimore. But at the same time, I'm hearing these reporters, they're tearing up because, oh, somebody had said something about Baltimore. Trump said something about Baltimore. This is the thing. You have to put stuff in context and consider who the source is. We already know that Trump is a bigot. Break it down like this. If Paris Hilton said something about Baltimore, would I be crying my eyes out? Would I be so hurt that I'm about to fall to pieces? Hell no. What I would do, I would say, okay, Paris, because you come from a different world, let me break down systematic racism. Let me break down how education is not based on merit, but based on how much money. So if I am coming from inner city Baltimore, where we don't have a lot of huge tax-based dollars, my kids aren't going to the best school, and therefore things are being generationally cycled. Am I going to be worried about somebody saying city of rats when I need to come back full battle and say, listen, we have a mental health issue here where the jails and the prisons are used as a first defense or first treatment for mental health, instead of figuring out what are some of the mental health treatments that we need to have. And by the way, educate them on how that was started by Reagan when he closed down all the mental health facilities. So now my strategy and plan and challenge to all of these people is, I always say, let your actions equal your activism. All right, Mr. Trump, President Trump, I use that loosely. Baltimore is such a blah, blah, blah. Well, our schools, our education, our after-school programs were gutted. They were absolutely gutted. Show the documentation of what it was how they were doing when they had funding and what it's like when they don't have funding. But I don't care about anything else except for how we're going to get our kids, the ones that are caught up in this battle of adults, into a better life. You're a grown man tearing up on camera. I get it. I understand it. There was a very young activist out in Baltimore that I met. Now this guy, I actually met him in Baltimore at the incident that made him famous in Baltimore. This cat had no feelings about voting. He was so anti-voting, it was unreal. We would rather protest and march in the streets instead of following up and fixing things with action. I was on that kid like white on rice, like white on rice. He hated me, called me everything except for a child of God, told me I was old and out of touch. By the time I got done with this kid, he was working on the Bernie Sanders campaign. By the time I was done with this kid, somebody else saw him in Baltimore. You know what he says? I disagree with where I stood that day. I am about voting. So I could have taken my time, been in my feelings, crushed myself small, but I wanted to get through this to this kid because I know that kid was powerful. This activist is one of the most powerful upcoming activists in Baltimore that has the ability to change Baltimore because he knows what needs to be done. He has a finger on the pulse. So right now, kids like that, we need to be holding up and saying, okay, give him money so that he can go and open up community centers. Give this kid money so that he can, take what he's done in this small hand in Baltimore and change it. Get some new ideas. But as you know, and what I'm coming to really understand is that if you want change in this world, you have to have dollars and funding. With dollars and funding, you can hire teachers that are not stressed out, that don't have to work 2 jobs. Please continue to tear up because some reality star who continuously shows you who he is has hurt your feelings. You want to be a leader? You want to be speaking for the Black community? Well, speak up about what needs to happen, what needs to change. Put your feelings in a box. Right now, fire back at the White House. Start tweeting. Yes, education gap funding in Baltimore is A, B, and C. Wage gap funding in Baltimore is A, B, and C. Mental health, whatever it is, pick one. Early school education, research it, pick it. Go and say, hey, White House, Baltimore needs this much funding. That's what you do. That's how you fight. Forward together, not one step back.